Hi. What a privilege it is to share this time with you this day. No matter what day you're looking at, listening to this recording, I love me. And a lot of me's will rise now to be the Christ in their clothes, to be the Christ, Christian, not again of. For that divorce will take place now, and Christ will be ripped from Christianity no more, or will the great separation take place now between Christ and Antichrist. Christ forming it again in the surrendered humble to lead out of earth, or where we've been duped, duplicity of? Or will you sell your soul not again to a devil, or try to be saved from one? Or are you changing what you think you know? Are you changing what you think, what you know? Will you become the Christ in your shoes? Becoming Christ is now the echo of the generations, not, but the soon coming King will be it in your shoes if you see it the way that I do. And I will be singing a song of Jerusalem no more, the molecular of. I am Christ in Two Shoes Cottingham, calling you Christ, to conform it no more to other that you think is you. Will you create the Antichrist no more that's you? Will you no longer be against Christ, the Christian of, or will Christianity you no more see Christ as representing it sourly or dourly, or are you no more the dowager looking for, or are you changing the royalty of heaven now? Will you be Christ in your shoes? Will you be Christing it? Will the Christer step forward? Will you, the Christer, be Christian no more, but the soon coming King, the King of Kings, the King that lies to no one else? Will you become what you really are? No longer duped, no longer naive, no longer gullible. Are you willing to see the truth and realize it doesn't make you free, make you miserable until you become it? Let there be no mistake about the school of me and what the goal is. The goal of the school of me is seen in this picture. I won't say it's a perfect picture, but it's the best picture I have to communicate with you at this moment. These things that are coming into place now, tangibly, and the tangible Christ will arise. And, my friend, it will be all of you who want to be beneath your privilege no more. Are you willing to see the stages in your growth where you comfort you not again to create complacency in the Christ? Will you no longer dumb it down? Will you no longer tell the theories of Christ, the corporate Bible of? Are you willing to create one? Are you willing to create yours? Are you willing to write what? The new covenant. Again, the new covenant, not the Christian Bible of, but the covenant of you with God, or whatever you called God, or what God was before the name God existed. Source, universe. Are you willing to see you look like this? Are you willing to consider that you actually have a light body? You are the light of the world. Are you willing to consider this day that you are not powerless? Are you willing to see a different paradigm? Are you willing to consider how mutually exclusives coexist? Because what we assume to be mutually exclusive is not always as we think it is. So many times something that may seem to be mutually exclusive is a different stage, a different time. There's a time elapsed, there's a growth stage. So I've been creating pictures to help communicate to you, my friends, who are willing to create a new you. Create a new you. No longer living the life of the lie. No longer waiting for Jesus to come back in the paradigm of powerlessness, where you sit on a pew and all you do is read the Bible, study the Bible, pray in tongues or pray against them, whatever. You see, the divisiveness of Christ goes bye-bye while the risen Christ rises in you who will create it. Oh, I like the way I said that. I listen to a lot of things I say for the first time as I say them, because I speak these words surrenderedly to you, to create in you the new covenant too. I'm not just spouting knowledge or thought. I'm surrendering to teach, to speak, to stream, whether you think I'm channeling it or not. No matter what you think my source is, I'm love, sourced of love, the divine feminine, the feminine divine, that which exchanges its heart for no other to rape it or use its power. The story of the cosmos is much bigger than any of us have been taught. And now we're coming into it, not afraid of it. We're opening the door of light, the vast frontier, the kingdom of heaven that is within you, one by one. There's not going to be some mass rapture, folks. The idea of a rapture, the idea of rising, the idea is becoming limitless. See, it's portraying not a metamorphosis of time, and not just an evolution, but it's you creating you. You create the Christ. The Christ message was always for you to create it. I suggest to you, Jesus didn't, along the storylines, teach 12 men to be his followers, to go create followers. I suggest to you, the desire of Jesus was for them to receive the message that they become who he is by the power of their conscious mind, because the conscious mind creates, and creates in separation, creates along what it's been taught and what it's programmed to do, or it begins to create in the origination of one what? One mind, one world, one existence, a non-molecular one that can exist in the molecular world too. See, I suggest we're creating the Christ. The message was to create the Christ. Remember when the story in the Bible, the disciples come to Jesus and say, "You've been teaching all day and the people are many and they are hungry. Should we go to town and buy them food?" What did Jesus say? Do you know? Do you know the parables? Do you know them all? Have you studied the words in the red? Well, I suggest there's great knowledge there to be uncovered for you to begin to understand your power. Not limited to them. See this without time. Take your space-time glasses off that limit you and begin to see. What did Jesus tell them? These people are hungry. Should we go buy bread? Jesus said, "You feed them." Probably said a good bit more than that. You have the power, don't you know? You have the power to feed. You have the power to feed the 5,000. We do. You do. They do. They did. We still do. If we consider the message to create the message of the new covenant crown of Christ, to create the new Jerusalem upon our head, the crown not spiked with thorns. I think about sometimes the crown we wear on our head is formed by that which makes us bleed, our neurons, programmed by DNA and other people's thoughts, words, and deed. And we so often wound each other and wound ourselves in the process because we don't know better. This is a great day. In one sense, I'll show you another picture. It's a paradigm of power. And it's the paradigm of powerlessness, depending on what you can see and what you can understand about the growth of Christ and what the new covenant really means. What really is the operation of the new covenant and what is the result of it? Pardon me. So I suggest to you, the old paradigm was powerless to create. Worshiping God, accepting Jesus, whatever religion you wanted to accept and path you follow, hasn't produced the new creation. I suggest to you, there's not a single person on this earth at this moment that's been born again. I know, sounds radical, maybe ludicrous. But you see, a born-again person becomes not limited to flesh. and they become able to do all the works that Jesus did. That's why Jesus said, if you believe in me, you will do all the things that I do and more. John 14:12. This is what's coming forth. This is the goal of this school. I'm Theodore Cottingham with the School of Me. I'm in this school. I lead this school. I'm in class at this very moment with you. I'm sharing with you. I'm sharing with you, and you're thinking about what I'm saying. You're hearing what I'm saying. At this very moment, your neurons are firing in all sorts of various patterns, considering what I am saying. Condemning it with everything in you, or maybe even receiving the idea, the possibility. Is there more to the story? Is this the story? A born-again being? A born-again being of light that doesn't leave the earth forever, but not limited to it, begins to operate here with power, love, and joy. Because to create this, to begin to walk in your power, your potential, your birthright, as the offspring of God, the offspring of Source, the offspring of creativity, the Creator. You create the crown. You create the crown of life by growing it day by day in words like this that change your patterns of light, so that your patterns of light no longer confuse you, derange you, no longer debase you. You no longer condemn you as a Christian. You no longer condemn you as a Christ or an Antichrist. The pointing finger and the words of condemnation go bye-bye. And you lay those things down, and you begin to learn of light, to be the light, forming the light as you increase, as you create the new you, as you create the real you. And how long this takes is dependent totally on you. So many of us are so inculcated in religion, religious ideas. We've been taught them, and we've turned around and taught them for much of our life. And I understand sometimes it's hard to let go of old ideas, especially when you feel so invested in them. But feel no remorse for the past. Let the past go and see the now. See the new you arising in the mind of one. Oh, my little cat just jumped up here. So you see, I want to show you the change of paradigms. So another picture I printed. This is both a picture of the paradigm of power and the paradigm of powerlessness. And they are not mutually exclusive. It's what you can see. Because you see an image. But we're learning to not bow down to the image. We're learning to understand. Let us for the moment say at the center is Christ, or at the center is God. It's okay to call it either one. Call it Ralph, call it Betty Sue, call it truth, call it light, call it source. Okay? Truth is truth, no matter what you name it. And a bunch of us have a bunch of names for it. But the real the reality of truth and the truth of the reality that is not limited to the molecular world no longer shields us from the truth that we are cosmic beings and we originate the truth in the creatorship of one, and that creatorship takes place in the Holy of Holies, the temple not made with hands. The temple not made with hands, the Holy of Holies, is between your ears. You, my friend, woman, man, the Holy of Holies is not a temple made with hands. So you see, this is, to me, showing us, or let us see in this, how's that? Let us see the revelation of the Christ. The revelation of the Christ. The revelation of the Christ. The true revelation. I suggest to you the intent of Jesus, the original intent, the communication before it got so convoluted, corrupted, truncated, and put forth by men to canonize the stories and be in control of the laity and have two tiers and have-nots and all sorts of caste and bureaucracies and authorities lifted up to hide the truth from people. Before any of that existed, the revelation of Christ was Christ, sharing Christ to be Christ. So at this moment, there's a truth, there's a revelation of Christ. There's also the revelation beginning to form that Christ, what Christ is, what God is. See, let's not separate the two. Let's understand the supernatural, the origination, source, universe. What this is will teach you directly. And this is where it begins to get so exciting. You're no longer following a theory. You're no longer just stuck, isolated, studying a Bible or in some fellowship, listening to somebody according to a set of rules, trying to interpret their rules correctly to be worthy, to find your way into heaven. This is the operation of the new covenant where you begin to learn source truth teaches you directly. This is the promise of the new covenant. This is the operation of the new covenant coming into place now for the earth, and it will cross every line of demarcation. There will be people that will come to know the living Christ is them in their mirror. They will begin to create it of every nation, tribe, and tongue. And their socioeconomic standing will not defeat them. Neither will the words of man, nor the understanding of angels who don't know who they are. So we have this picture. I love it. I think it's a great picture. But it's not the picture, because there are so many pictures, because we are coming out of the image land. We are laying down our icons. We are no longer worshiping idols. Idols? I don't worship an idol. All of us have worshiped idols. The idols were imaged to us. They were imaged of thought. And whatever you call God or whatever your name, I suggest to you have some kind of image of it, because your words produce images in thought land. But thought land no more rules us. You see, the truth is taught now, and it's not just recognizing to worship it. In fact, I suggest to you the worship of Christ, the worship of God. I suggest to you we must learn to mature, to come out of God worship. Because there's a paradigm of power that hasn't been preached. We haven't known it. And this, my friend, is again, it's not the greatest picture. I have more in my mind, but it's the best one I have to share with you today. We're moving from this paradigm, the paradigm of knowing Christ is a man who came long ago that has some type of Holy Spirit or whatever, and that we worship God, and God is not us, to this, where there are classes of people. And that's why I began a school of me in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, USA. So this, my dear friend, is an idea. It's a picture. It's not an idol. And it may be a revelation. But I suggest to you it's a revelation of where we're going. So that the teaching is moved from this, the centrality of a central figure where we worshiped it in the past, to understanding what this is the power, the light, the truth, the light. To communicate with every person individually, regardless of what their native tongue is. So these people can actually be speaking in their native tongue, not tongues they don't understand. It's their tongue, their native tongue, that they do understand, whether the person beside them understands it or not. And maybe they're not even speaking it out loud. But you see, light forms light, and the new creation creates it again. This is the new creation. This is the operation of the new covenant, actually changing the patterns of light that control us, that we control. We can say the mind controls us. We suffer from the mind's power over us when we have the power over the mind. My little cat back there. Okay. There's a new beginning. And we are the beginners in it. And we are beginning the new beginning. And we are no longer flashing people our ignorance and condemnation thoughts. I suggest to you the operation of the new covenant is to reveal to you the revelation, the Christ is you, and create the covenant with you of your own living word to be the living you. So the new covenant is not a book in a Bible. It's not something long ago. I've said over and over and over for years now, this process of what God is, teaching you directly into your mind in a way that's not limited to syllables, not limited to language, because it's heart language. It's the language of light, the language of love. It's the language of creation. And where creation occurs first is in the Garden of Eden, between your ears. And it's not just for you. And that's why you write it. Because the writing of the covenant, remember, the finger of fire and whatever, there's all this symbology, symbols everywhere. But the power of light, in fact, the power of life and death, you hold. You have the power of life and death in the tongue. The tongue. What controls your tongue? How you're programmed. Let's not try to save the soul anymore. Let's not redeem the soul. The soul, the seed of your emotions. The seed of something that thinks it's separate from God. No. Let this mind be in you, which was in Christ Jesus. Create the light. You're the creator of the light. The consciousness. You're choosing at this moment whether to be conscious or not. Conscious of what? Conscious of Christ. Conscious of Christ. Christ no longer a central figure that we worship. Christ being every one of you, where we begin to learn. We begin to sit at table and receive the communication and begin to experience day by day that which leads to a new you. The you. Birthed again. This is the new birth. A person that is born again. And what does that look like? The real you and you being the same one. This, my friend, is what is meant by the two become one. This is the raising, the opening, the filming, the showing, the revelation, creating the revelation to create the creator again, that's you. What do I want? When my kids were young, I taught them. I took time. I was devoted to teaching them, sharing with them my life. I didn't want them to go through the hard knocks. I wanted them to begin to grow up and not have the torment or have to deal with so many things that I did. So I taught them. I went into their world. That was a real challenge for me. Coming into the world of a toddler trying to communicate. Them learning to talk. Then they begin to talk. They begin to advance. And I constantly had to change. I say constantly, kind of a stair-stepped progression over and over and over. I had to change how I communicated with my kids so that I could come into their world. Because they couldn't come into my world at that age, with that mind, at that present moment. They didn't have the vocabulary. They didn't have the consciousness of what I could convey. But I came into their world where they allowed me to. And I tried. I read books, listened to tapes back then, cassette tapes. I studied. I wanted to be a good dad. My dad loved me. My mom loved me. I love my kids, and I love you. And this is how I'm showing it. I'm here with no desire to create followers. I'm here sharing the message that I have found of truth that doesn't convert anyone, but transforms the living truth to become it because you're the creator of you. And the creation story will be changed now, and people will walk in truth without arrogance. And the power of love will create creators. And this will be seen and not just imagined. Because I suggest to you, people all over the earth, of every nation, tribe, and tongue, can begin to understand these pictures, not limited to the words of English that I'm speaking. And the rising will occur where people begin to get the message and begin to respond and begin to learn to let God teach them directly, no longer depending on a church, a preacher, a religion. And you begin to write the new covenant. And as you write, as you literally begin to write with your pen, you are creating new connections. And if you begin to learn to write surrenderedly, where you write and you don't force your writing to conform to some type of prescribed etiquette, no longer trying to write according to a protocol of man, no longer trying to create words that create images that conform to your past. You can begin to write where a stream of energy begins to be felt in you. And this is what I used to call the voice of God. This is the voice of God in you. The voice of God. The voice of God is not a voice like we think of the audible voice that you may be hearing right now. The voice of God. Well, let's use some synonyms to try to redefine and go behind the veil. Let's take down the veil. Let's not be afraid of what we find. If you ask for a fish, will God give you a stone? Will you begin to truly realize the fear of the Lord is not the beginning of wisdom. It's the beginning of the creation of the Antichrist mind. To fear God? No. I don't want my kids to fear me. The very opposite. Come into my presence anytime, no matter where I am. Call me anytime, day or night. I'm in a business meeting. I interrupt that meeting if my kid calls. I will never leave you or forsake you. I will never leave or forsake them. We're beginning to see the power of love rather than the power of thought controlling us. Thought, literally, thought as a thing, thought as a power has ruled us. The power of thought has emerged and taken over our mind in the operation of these neurons and DNA. But that coding changes now because we are robots no more for religion. And we begin to see how things that appear mutually exclusive can actually be complementary. They can help. They may operate in a symbiotic way somehow, or there's a progression over time. There's no new birth that's instantaneous. But this is what's coming forth, my friend, one by one. This is the paradigm of power, the paradigm of the operation of the new covenant where God teaches you directly and you write what you're learning. And the reason you're writing it is not only that it's a creation process within you, it's to document your path so you can share it with others. And to rise in your leadership to be no longer afraid of these things. Don't you realize how often we as a people have been controlled by someone else's condemning stare? We're condemned in our shoes. We feel it, the power of their stare, the power of them looking at us. We've been immobilized. We've been accused, and we feel the accusation, the condemnation, without a word being said. We now learn to overcome the giants of those feelings. because we are becoming beginners, no longer gullible. We begin to release our immaturity and our hold on religion that religion has on us. And we begin to learn to be taught directly, taught by God directly, no matter what your name for God is. No matter what your name for God is. I say it over and over. Your name for God does not defeat truth. Your name for God, if you're seeking love, love talks, love communicates. Love doesn't need syllables to communicate. Love is a flow, a stream, energy, not dependent on molecules. And that's why these heads are glowing, because you are the light of the world, and the energy of light, the power of light, love, and peace creates, and it creates in your mind. This is where you create the consciousness of Christ to rule and reign in your heart, to become who Christ is in your shoes, where you are the body and blood of Christ. You're no longer taking a cup or a wafer, thinking it's the body and blood or even a symbol of the body and blood of someone else that did something for you. This is where you become it in the revelation of the healing, the transformation from being under God and worshiping God to becoming who you really are. It's not about grabbing your power. It's not about arrogance. And what I'm teaching and what I teach day after day is the very opposite of something that you can reach out and take hold on so that you can just learn the principles to make more money or tap into the power so that you can control people or have a bigger church or a better business. You want the principles. You want business principles. You want to bring God into your business to make more money to do what you want to do. I did. That was my goal a long time. But there's more to the story. And now this story will be known and not shunned. And true love and light are not powerless. True love and light create love and light. Love and light reproduce with the seed that's matured. The seed is the word. Remember the parable? The seed for the tree of life. The tree of life between your ears in the garden. Please don't eat the fruit that separates you from you. You see, the stories have been convoluted, corrupted. But the truth of you is for you to find the truth in you and let the truth teach you directly. That's how you will find the truth. If you want to know the truth, there's only one way. You become it. And it's costly because you created you. And now you come into the knowledge of the process of your power to recreate you, to begin to walk, to begin to heal your neighbors, and maybe even walk on water sometimes. Not as a demonstration of your power, but to demonstrate to those who watch the power that they have rejected, saying Christ was someone else. This is the revelation of the kingdom of God within you, the revelation of you, no longer taking your crown off, putting it at the feet of another. This is the creation of the Christ, not controlled by theology. We're growing up learning to be not afraid of somebody calling us heretics or blasphemous. If you read many of the comments on some of my, especially my short YouTube videos, you can see people blasting me. You can see how brutal people are in their comments. And many of you have experienced brutality from other people. You've been abused, debased, isolated, wounded by people you loved. People you thought you'd be safe with. But all that changes now because the power of you is in the power of your love, not the love of your creation, but the love now of love for you to recreate you, to heal you and all those around you. And this is how we bring heaven to earth. We're not interested in restoring a balance of power. We're not interested in balancing power. We're interested in love, loving love, to light the earth, lit by the words that create the consciousness of Christ, divorced from the confusers who want to conform to Christianity. Christ is not a Christian. Christ won't be a Christian. There's a great separation, and now it's known, and it will cover the earth. And I am one. And who am I? I'm just a simple guy in Eureka Springs. And I invite you to come as a child to the holy place with your pen, a yellow tablet, and begin to ask simple questions. Begin to write. Over and over and over, as I have been taught, letting God teach me directly for 21 years. Over and over, God has said, tell them to pick up their pen, pick up their pen, pick up their pen and write me, write me, write to me. Write to me. Ask me questions. Ask me the hard questions. Ask me. And let me begin to write back to them the answers through their own pen. This is the covenant of creation, where you, the created, have your creation to now recreate you. The cycle of creation. No longer limited to the molecular world. Walking in peace, power, and privilege. Connected. Connected. Connective. Active. And conscious to the collective mind of God. The collective mind of God. And God will no more be disconnected from the collective mind of God. And heaven restored here will be. And no soon coming king will be looked at to be another one. It'll be you. Walking in power, love, restoring joy, healing, laying down the woundedness of our hopeless hearts and hope will be refocused in action. And we will begin to learn to no longer worship that which we thought was sacred. We'll understand the message is to become a new creation and birth it to be the operational Christ in your shoes. Yay! You're it. You're worthy. You're competent. And now the message will be complete in the writers who will not study and give their lives to a Bible other, a Bible of the past. There's a new covenant. Not the New Testament of, there's the new covenant of you. You live it, you write it, and begin to teach it. And that's the power of creation. And that's how the School of Me operates. I exist in Eureka Springs for the moment, but this message goes all over the world and farther. And I ask you to be the one. Be the one. Not worshiping me. Heal the message, hear the message, and become it. To walk it in your shoes. To heal you first. To heal your mom and dad. Heal your kids. Heal your lovers. Heal those who hated you, who still hate you, who hate you more than ever because you have something now they thought they had, but you have the power. Don't disparage them. Be merciful, be tactful, be wise, so that the people of this world are no longer wiser than the children of light. Just because we have the power to do something doesn't mean we do it. There's wisdom. The mind of Christ is connected to the collective mind of Christ. God, the collective mind of God. God we are, and God exists, and we are not separate. We are part of that united mind of the consciousness of one. And this is the process that completes us, so that we literally conform to no one else's creation of us. And their words won't matter. And their threats won't scare us. We begin to know who we are and live it in love and power. My name is Theodore Cottingham with the School of Me in Eureka Springs. Thank you for letting me share this time with you. Thank you for caring about these words. Thank you for caring about you. Thank you for loving you. Love you in your marrow. Forgive you of all that you have done, and don't let the words of other people that have been so caustic, so inflammatory, light your fire to be against them or anything else. Just let there be peace. Let the power of your word and the revelation of who you are bring you peace, but bring you into action. Bring you into action. Not just sitting on a pew waiting on God, worshiping God, but now there are different pictures, and I have many more pictures, and hopefully I'm learning to communicate better and better in these videos. I invite you to leave your comments. Tell me, gosh, am I doing better? I'm a man. I'm God. I'm an angel. I'm powerless, not again, because I speak the truth that I believe will come forth in all nations, tribes, and tongues. And women will no more be put under men, and none of us will be under the authority of any cleric's robe or ring again. We walk in the power of our love, because love is not powerless. And the love of kings and the love of money will no more create kings over us. For the King of Kings is rising in every person who will be it. You see, the role of the King of Kings is to king the kings, not to be worshipped. But the family of God is one. And now we know more, and we will know more. No more tomorrow? Write me. Write your words. Write to me, Theodore. Write to your God, whatever you call it. And begin to let God write through you with the humility of a child. I love you all. I go now. You can write me at Box 34. You can write me snail mail, Box 34, in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, USA. On the web, theschoolofme.com. I invite you to subscribe to my posts and the postings I make on my website. I invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I invite you to create your own channel. See, this is how this school works. You can't just sit there and listen. This is where you begin to operate. And you begin to share what you're learning. Because as you share what you are learning too the operation, if you will learn to operate in humility. So you're in a school and creating a school? By George. You're in a course that calls you to create a course? If you're in this school, you're creating a school, and you're creating courses within that school, within this school. Because the school of one creates the consciousness of power, love, and peace, not dependent upon the tongue that wants the syllables that create conformity to another. Pardon me. I love you and I bless you. Thank you again. Heal the Christ that's you in your shoes. And now Christ will no longer be looking for a place to lay his head. Let the head of Christ be you, women. Women in song. Bear the child of the birth of the new birth. The angels that you really are. No longer gendered by terror. I love you. I go now. At some point, you may want to study in Eureka, or you may want to commit to be a student online, where you actually join this school. You're invited. Explore the website. Come into your power and create the real you. I love you. I go now. Good day. Listen to this more than once if you're serious. Write what you see being said. Write what's meaningful to you. See, this is school. Take out a pen. Get a yellow tablet. Or maybe you type well. Write a paper. Write a 300 or 400 word summary of what I've said today. I feel that Theodore Cottingham is conveying something that is this, that, and I think the main point was this, that, and I still wonder about this, and this sounds far out, far-fetched, just write. Just begin to write. This is school. This is the school of me. The school of me is for the school of you, to have the school of you that's for you. to be of the mind of Christ creating it, the one mind of Christ creating. Let this school be in you, the school of Christ, to school you correctly, tenderly, knowing you'll never be condemned by the words of the leader of the child of the leader that's in humility, to learn to be who we really are. Write me, write you. Write what you think I'm saying. Write in the comments. Write a paper. If you want to share with me the paper, write a paper out, longhand, or type it up. Mail it to Box 34. I may respond. You never know what I'll do. But what are you doing with your power? Be the creator this day of the real you. Initiate. Be not led by peace that keeps you inactive or keeps you stagnant. There's a flow of life. Love flows. The flow of love teaches, and the teacher is within you. Let the mouth of God teach you this day through your pen as you write. Hear the words of God that you write. I love you all. I go now. Theodore Cottingham with the School of Me. Thank you again for listening, sharing these words, and taking time to write me, taking time to write. Write what you see me saying. Write your questions. Write what you want to know. But don't let religion control you with their pen or their words. Create your own and live the life. No more of a fool. Be the Christ in your shoes. I love you. Good day, friend.